Hello! Today we're going to be talking about Changeling the Dreaming. Changeling the Dreaming is part of White Wolf Game Studios' original or classic World of Darkness. It was a line of role-playing games that came out in the mid-90s, largely. In this, players are changelings. Those are fairy souls reborn into human bodies. The Fae needed to do this to protect themselves. They were being rejected by the world as magic has largely vanished. This was first published in, June 1995, received an update in August 1st, 1997. Today's focus is going to be on the sidhe. The sidhe are the terrifyingly beautiful traditional noble rulers of the rest of the fairy species, or kiths. This is the source book for them, and as with the entire Changeling the Dreaming line, it is just gorgeous. Beautiful, luscious art everywhere, just some of the nicest you will see for all of White Wolf. These sidhe are the most political that you will find in the game, and the various families that the sidhe are comprised of could almost be viewed as different playable races mechanically. If any of you have played Vampire the Masquerade or Requiem, think of these families as similar to clans. The families, or houses, are 13 political factions of the noble sidhe acting within the 3 courts. Of these houses, 6 of them are among the Seelie court, and 6 are among the young Seelie. The 13th, the Scathach, were kicked out. The Seelie court styles it as sort of the guardians of the Fae traditions. So think of them as being the traditionalists. They see themselves as the peacekeepers, whether those want to accept their brand of peace or not. Protectors of the weak, and of course the sidhe get to apply that label of who is weak or who isn't. And the ideals of chivalry. And chivalry. Well, any of you that are even vaguely interested in feudal society and medieval economies, and seeing as you're a role-playing nerd like myself, you probably are, you'll understand that chivalry wasn't exactly what is portrayed in Disney movies. I'm going to do a video detailing my thoughts about how the Seelie court is written for Changeling, and I'll add the link in the description. Now, traditionally, the Seelie court ruled during spring and summer, but now they're in charge all the time. The houses are called the Beaumain, the Elion, the Fianna, the Gwydion, the Liam houses, and Dougal. And Dougal is the house we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice about these guys is their coat of arms. It contains 3 gold gears on a red field above a black arm, and a hammer on a gold field. House Dougal is all about being excellent at what you do and proud of what you create. Knockers make wild and crazy gadgets and gizmos aplenty, but your who's-its and what's-its galore, they come in the form of perfectly styled armor of the highest quality. Likewise, your sword and other weaponry is so perfectly balanced it seems like it was enchanted to match perfectly to the wielder. And hell, sometimes it was. The head of the household, the great smith himself, the founder, Lord Dougal, was a great fairy blacksmith. His claim to fame was he made cold iron unpopular with humans. How he did this was he didn't do it by throwing down some curse on cold iron or magically separating humans from any source of it for all eternity. No, I'd argue his solution was a hell of a lot more clever. He figured out how to stick glamour into steel. This made it safe for fairies to use. In the 1500s, when the plague was tearing Europe apart and humans were turning their back on hope, wonder, awe, all those things that comprise glamour, the life force, the food source for all fairies, what they need to survive, so they were packing their bags and leaving Earth naturally. Well, there's a tale that says Lord Dougal actually stayed behind on Earth. And he didn't do this to protect the Fae that were left behind, or to bring peace and happiness to a bunch of lowly humans that were dying horrifically of bubonic plague. No, he just wanted to get better at faffing around with metal and wasn't sure if the place they were going to, Arcadia, would have it. And that really just describes House Dougal perfectly to me. They can get lost in their own little world. The current head of House Dougal, High Lord Donovan, currently lives in a freehold built around a factory in the western lands of the Kingdom of Apples. In the Grey World, Mortal World, Autumn World, or, to be blunt, the world that you and I see every day, this factory is just some abandoned old shack of a place. When you enter through the Dreaming Realm, though, it appears as a magnificent fortress chock full of beautifully crafted chimerical inventions of the highest quality. Now, I hope you're getting the impression that this isn't the house of high passions or being especially emotional towards one another. This is a house where efficiency is considered a virtue, for crying out loud. Not just any, this is your big virtue. They get impatient when they see she, other fae, or humans acting in a way that seems arbitrary to them. If you're a she born into this family, or if you're some commoner that wants to get in, knockers and boggins favor this house. In fact, a dozen knockers get apprenticed here every year. Then you have the dubious honor of being run through an exceptionally demanding training program. You start as an apprentice, work your way to journeyman, and then finally become a master. At each stage, you're required to make increasingly complex and impressive exemplars. These are masterworks that, if approved by your mentor, is accepted as worthy of House Dougal and usually put to use. Additionally, when you're a journeyman, it's expected that you make the rounds of other freeholds to learn new crafting techniques. So very few in this house like to rule. Again, they like to get lost in their work, which hardly lends themselves to being, people persons? You can find them in other phase freeholds, usually as clerks, barristers, chancellors, and record keepers. Higher mathematics, mechanics, architecture, and smith work are also very common. They're very efficient and they know the rules, but their distinct lack of social skills and adaptability mean that they run into a lot of implementation issues. At the same time, they're she and occasionally knockers and boggins, and they all have this impressive ego. The great majority of them actually sincerely believe that if you want something done right, then you need a member of House Dougal to do it. They want something that isn't just boring work. They want a job that will stretch the limits of their intelligence. These guys are truly a people that see God in the machine. If they see something so beautifully crafted it actually deeply impresses them, then they might find themselves in a sort of daydreamy, can't look away from it sort of state. Like any house, they have their boons and flaws, but I'd almost call that one an additional flaw for these people. So, a house of a ruling fae species that doesn't like to rule. So why does anybody listen to them? How come they have any power? How come they have all this money? How are they able to have these nice freeholds? Well, first off, unlike just some random commoner knocker who is able to make cool war machines, a she-made House Dougal cannon or sword isn't likely to have some crazy flaw that might kill its owner, and that really counts for a lot. Additionally, these guys are smart enough to back what should have been some of their biggest competition. Goblin Market is a freehold that operates more like a city-state in Changeling, and it's made up of knockers. It's widely used by game masters, or here, storytellers, as a sort of MacGuffin for players to get the equipment they need. House Dougal provides both martial and political in something called the Parliament of Dreams. Think of the Senate of the Roman Empire. Support for Goblin Market. Now, I mentioned before, all she families have boons and flaws, just like the she themselves, as well the rest of the species or kiths. I'm actually going to read directly for the House Dougal boons and flaws because it's mechanically significant. Now, the House Dougal boon is members of this house are strong-willed and known for their ability to invest glamour into everything they do. Again, that's how their founder was able to make cold iron safe, largely. Once per story or campaign, a member of this house can convert a portion of her temporary glamour points into temporary willpower points, up to the level of permanent willpower. So, I'm just going to say that if you're doing character creation and you're a she or a knocker that you know is going to be sworn to this house, you might want to put a lot into willpower. That's just me munchkining. This must be done during some sort of physical exertion, working, exercising, or participating in combat. Alright, the flaw. For House Dougal, physical reality seems flawed, just as they are flawed. Only through hard work can they overcome these flaws. It's a dangerous line of thought. She of this house always have a physical handicap that must be compensated for. This is usually something that can be corrected by cunningly crafted smith work. So, a mechanical leg for a club foot, an intricate eyepiece for poor vision, and so on. These handicaps are present, though not always visible, in their mortal seemings. All in all, Playing the perfectionist isn't something that comes naturally to me in role-playing, but I know plenty of people who love it and do it very well. I've actually played with a couple of House Dougal and really enjoy this very formalized little society inside themselves that House Dougal's carved out. So if you're considering Changeling the Dreaming, and you really should, the Quick Start Guide is literally $0 and it's an amazing amount of fun. I highly recommend giving these guys a go.